MarBeth Dunn, and welcome to another week of meditation and conversation. This week I have an amazing panel. We have Harrison Klein, who'll be appearing next to me in this chair. We have Sharon Carne, and we have Dr. Shirlene Reeves. And I'm just so excited. Harrison is a renowned metaphysician and educator, and Sharon is a renowned educator and a sound healer, and she created the Sound Wellness Institute. And Dr. Shirlene Reeves is a 4-time award-winning author. She is a heart-based business coach, a media host, and we're just so excited to have everybody here. And this is going to be a really exciting conversation on peace because we're going to talk about Imagine Peace based on the John Lennon song, Imagine. And so let's start out right now with a meditation. And here we go. So imagine peace. Let's take a couple of deep breaths. It's so easy to pack stress in your body without even realizing it's there. It just happens sometimes in life. And so when we can remember who we are and take a minute just to breathe, we start to calm down. So let's start by breathing. I always like to start with breath work in a meditation. So let's close our eyes and inhale through your nostrils, all the way down, following the breath in your mind's eye as it flows all the way down into your belly. And now follow it in your mind's eye as it moves through your body and out through your nostrils. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. Following that breath. Now we use imagination in our meditations, but today we're really going to focus on what imagination can do to help us be calmer and more peaceful. So as we imagine ourselves within our bodies, just notice, what does that feel like? Are you hearing any sounds? I'm hearing some rustling of paper. I'm feeling the air on my body. I'm feeling the floor, the cold floor underneath my toes. I'm feeling a cushion under my butt. I'm noticing. I'm in the moment. And as I am tuning into the present moment, I use my imagination to think of a place that's so peaceful. What is that place like for you? Where do you go when you want to be peaceful? Do you go to the beach? I like sometimes to imagine myself at the beach with the warm sand under my toes and streaming through my fingers, the waves lapping at the shore, the warm water on my feet as I enter the water. I hear the palm trees, the leaves rustling, and it takes me right there. And it's like I'm physically there. Or sometimes I like to imagine that I'm in a forest and I feel the leaves crunching under my feet, and it's very soft. There's a softness from all of the leaves that have fallen, any undergrowth that's there, and just forming like a carpet as I walk along the forest path. And there's a silence there, and sun filtering through the leaves. There's a presence of these big ancient trees. They're so magnificent. This stillness, except for the sound of my feet on the path. And there might be a little stream nearby with water that's tinkling as it runs over little rocks and stones and has little eddies. And I can see the water, it's just so clear. Now, all of this is with my imagination. And we're going to take an imaginary trip today as we leave our body, the body that we're sitting in right now, and we let our imagination move beyond the body and take us up and out. And we recognize that the body is just such a tiny portion of who we really are. We are so much more than physical form. And as we expand out and we look down at our body in the chair, and we recognize that we can still go further, and we're in our city, looking down at our house. And we don't miss the physical body. We're just moving around here, and it feels really good. We feel free. We feel very alive. And look down at the trees, at the people, and we're moving up. We're moving up. We're moving into a higher place, up in the clouds, looking down at our house, at our town, at the state where we live, at all of the people, the cars, the houses. And yet we are above them, many thousands of feet up. And we're going even further. We are going way up so that we can look at our whole continent of where we live. And we're above it, feeling really good, above the clouds, just enjoying being so free. How alive we feel, how beautiful it is, and how peaceful. Feel that peace. And notice as we are expanding and elevating that we are higher at such a great distance that we can see our whole beautiful planet. And just a wave of emotion just fills us with so much love and peace and gratitude to recognize that, one, we are not physical beings. Two, that we have the capacity to extend far beyond our physical bodies. And three, we can go even further. And now we are in the solar system in a completely different way, looking at the planets. And the other thing that's happening is that we've gotten bigger. We've noticed that because we're not limited by a body, that we are so much bigger than the Earth and bigger than some of the other planets. And now we're becoming bigger than the sun. Wow. How liberating, how expansive this is. And we notice that the Milky Way is just so much smaller than we are. Wow, how expanded are we? We're actually bigger now than the entire universe. We're limitless beings. So much greater, so much grander than we could even imagine, huh? Imagine. Our imaginations are limitless. And we look down at our puny little challenges and problems, and we recognize like, oh, from this vantage point, they don't seem very big at all. And now let's start to come back. Let's very gently come back through the Milky Way and back through the solar system. Bringing this feeling of expansiveness with us as we very gently began to move back into our country, back into our state, back into our city. And there we are, we're just going back into our body that's been sitting here very quietly meditating. And so wiggle your fingers and your toes and come back. I'm going to unmute our panel. And well, you guys are still muted, but I can unmute you. And Harrison, why don't you join us? So, imagination. This is so exciting. Of course, after a meditation, don't you feel so much calmer?
Hi, ladies.
Hi, Harrison.
Hi, Harrison.
Hey, hey.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Harrison is a world-renowned metaphysician and educator. And Sharon, as I said, is an amazing sound healer. We've had many amazing conversations. Hey, she has fabulous singing bowls. My favorite is Sir. And oh, you're going to play him? Oh,
Well, he's here just in case.
Oh, good. I love it. And she's also the founder of the Sound Wellness Institute, Dr. Shirlene Reeves. I'm so excited to have all these wonderful people that I just absolutely love and adore. Heart-based business coach and a media host and 4-time award-winning author. And she's just absolutely brilliant. And I just love her.
Aww,
So I'm going to... Oh, so we have some wonderful people on the call, and I just want to tell you that if you have any questions, do raise your hand and I'll look in the chat and, you know, we can put them out to the panel and answer your questions. So what I'd like to do is start with a quote from Albert Einstein, who was one of the most brilliant minds of our lifetimes, although I think he might have been a little before our lifetimes. But he says, imagination is more important than knowledge, while knowledge is limited to all we now know. While imagination embraces the whole world and all there ever will be to know and to understand. So imagination is pretty potent. And how exciting is it that we can use it, or can we, to create peace? So why don't we start with what is imagination? And oh, we are all in blue. Yes. That's not an accident. And I think blue is the most peaceful of all of the colors.
Yeah.
So, wow, this was totally uncoordinated. That's wonderful. So tell me, since we have you here, Shirlene, what is imagination?
Oh, I love imagination because I've found that if you imagine something that you really, really want, like if you're having a challenge with another person, or you want to succeed at something, or sometimes we call it manifesting, we can imagine it first. We can actually see it happening and the results of it. And then it will happen if we're persistent about it. And we really, really believe in what it is that we're imagining. And we just know that it's going to happen. That's what I think imagination is.
Beautiful. Sharon, what about you?
This is such an exquisite question, MarBeth, because there's so many different dimensions to look at imagination from. And as Shirlene was talking, I was reminded about how I love to use imagination in a very practical way when I'm playing my instrument because whatever the mind can imagine, the fingers can do. So I always, and when I'm teaching, I've been teaching classical guitar for decades. And when I'm sharing a new move or something different with a person, then we go to the imagination first, and it feels like this, and all different ways of imagining a movement, and then boom, it's just there. So,
Wow.
and to me, it's like imagination is the real reality, if that makes sense, depending on in a different dimension, imagination is reality. And we are just bringing this reality down here into the third dimension when we connect with it through imagination.
Wow. Yeah, that's beautiful. Harrison.
Well, I have a little bit of a different take on that.
Of course you do.
Imagination, in my opinion, imagination is the essence of magic. And it is, in point of fact, the mechanism of source that activates our, our humanness in the highest form. So it is a mechanism that creates a dreamscape. No other species on this planet has imagination that I know of. And it is the dreamscape that we tap into through desire, through awareness, and through, intention that peels away the layers of other dimensions and things so that we can enter, or we can know, or we can use for things that matter to us. It also moves us through areas that our conscious mind cannot by itself. It's one of the faculties of, it's one of the 5 faculties of mind that make a difference in living appropriately on this planet, so that we are happy, so that we are fulfilled, so that we are successful in whatever that definition of that word means to you, and so on and so forth. So imagination is this, it's this source expanded, it's this source expansion communication. It's our communication with source, basically.
Beautiful.
That activates our ability to see beyond our conscious parameters.
I love that. And I wanted also, I love what everybody said, because it's all beautiful, and it's all different aspects of imagination. And with Shirlene, you're using it as a tool for manifestation. I wanted to add to that also, because if we can imagine a future or an experience that we would like to be in, if we can add the dimension of our senses to it, to really feel into the experience. So expanding the imagination into our full being, so that we have an actual experience, and then the mind can't tell the difference between an actual experience and something that's very vivid. If you feel like, you're breathing into it, you're wearing particular clothes, but that's a little bit off the beaten track of where I want to be going with this. And I love what Sharon was saying about using it for creative use with guitar, with your music. And I know that it's also moving into like your sound healing, because that's a whole other dimension. So, and Harrison, that was just really very, very, very profound.
Thank you. It's a way to direct energy.
Totally. It's a way to direct energy. So how does it compare to memory or perception? You want to take that?
Sure. Well, it's one of the 5 faculties of mind. Mind has the faculty of reason, perception, imagination, memory, and intuition. And the faculty of imagination basically is sort of the culmination of where we draw a series of our energies into something that we want, again, that we ask source, because it comes from a request. It always comes from a request. We ask source to, define or show us in some form or other. Intuition has a different experience in that it always wants to direct us to balance. Memory has the record of everything we've ever done in life. Perception is the ability to discern and pull things from your experience, from your sensory experience. And reason and imagination and reason have a strong correlation in the fact that once we imagine something, it actually connects to reason for a number of different things in order to make our life experience happen in the real world, or whatever we call the real world.
Whatever that is.
There's no such thing.
What about you, Sharon? What are your thoughts on that?
Can you say the original question again?
I need help with it myself.
I loved what Harrison was sharing.
I know. As I said that, I thought, I wonder if this is really the right question to be asking.
Can you embellish it a little bit?
Yeah. So how would, I think we answered some of this earlier as how does imagination compare to memory or perception? But it is different, but then we can encompass memory, we can encompass perception. All of these can be part of imagination, right?
Yeah, to me, imagination directs and helps directs, I guess is the word, like a director or a conductor. It's directing the other faculties.
Yeah, okay. So I have another, did you have something you wanted to add, Shirlene, or we can go into something a little more juicy?
Let's do the juicy. I kind of like
do
juicy.
The juicy.
I thought that was pretty juicy.
It was. So what is the
You were juicy. The question wasn't.
So what is the wildest thing that you've ever imagined that would create positivity for humanity?
Wow, this is a perfect question for me.
All right.
I couldn't have asked for a better question.
Well, we channeled you.
Yes, you must have. For the last week, I've been reading the book When Things Fall Apart, and it's by Pema Chödrön. Do you know that book?
I don't know the book, but I have had books by her.
Yeah. And I arrived at the chapter, I've been doing one chapter a week because it's got a lot of really good information, but one chapter struck me, especially around what we're talking about today. And that is as a yoga experience with your breathing, to inhale the negative, something you don't like, something you can't look at, something you'll turn away at. And so I was watching a movie on TV and I thought, okay, I'm supposed to inhale, just look at it. And we all know what's on TV isn't really true. So most of it, when it comes to movies and things like that. So if you can look at it and inhale why you turned away, the anger or the hurt or the pain or whatever it is that you're looking at, and then exhale light and love, he says that it will shift the earth as a whole, and that it'll create more awareness of what we're doing to others, just even one-on-one. And also it'll help heal the world and bring more peace. So it's really the most outrageous thing I've ever thought about doing.
Yeah.
And I'm practicing it. I've been practicing it for a week, and I'm noticing a shift within myself of, you know, how we have opinions and all that all the time. I'm noticing a shift in those opinions, and that it's breaking down any facade that I might have had, because I'm really recognizing my fear, whatever my pain might be, or fear of pain, or whatever it is, and then it just dissipates. It's the most interesting thing. And what I love about it most is when we do the work, it helps so many others at the same time.
I love that. That's something I would never have thought.
Me neither.
No, I would have done the reverse. But that sounds very interesting, and I guess as an empath, I tend to be very careful about what energies I'm subjecting myself to. My body actually warns me in advance. I might have to suit up in my Iron Man suit.
Well, I'm an empath too, MarBeth. I am too. But what I find is when you breathe in that and then you exhale it and you're sending out the love and the light, it takes it all out of your body.
So
I don't have any residue left over.
You exhale it as well as the love and the light. So you're
you exhale that with the love and the light.
Okay. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
What about you, Sharon? What's the wildest dream that you've had, regarding positivity and humanity?
Well, I get, since the topic of empathic has come up, what came to my mind as you were talking, Shirlene, and thank you, this perception of inhaling the negative and exhaling the positive is brilliant. I'm going to have to look up
not
that book.
Mine.
Yeah, it's fascinating way to think about it.
Yeah.
I know about 15 years ago, I had an empathic experience that shifted my whole sense of responsibility over how I was thinking. And my mother-in-law, who I adored, we did so many things together. She also was a champion worrier. And one day I was driving on the highway, leaving town, and I felt this bam come right at my back. And it knocked me right into the steering wheel and almost drove me off the road.
Wow.
So as I traced the energy back to the source, I saw her thinking about me. And so it took me half an hour to clear this. And while I'm driving, I'm toning and clearing. And it was a physical experience of negative, quote, worry thoughts about me that hit me right in the center of the back. And it was a physical experience that changed my whole perception about what negative thought really is and where it goes and how it manifests. And so I sat my kids, who were teenagers at the time, around the kitchen table and said, I will never worry about you again. Ever. I will never, ever send that energy out to you. And so, and I had conversations with Peggy, and at her level of understanding, she kind of understood worry, but it was such a habit. And then making that a learning experience for me, turned that inwards, saying, where are my worry habits? Where are my negative thought habit patterns? How do I share those with those around me and with the world? And how do I shift that by choice to the more positive choice? And so that created a transformation in my own awareness that continues, because it's not something you just turn off. I wish,
right.
But
now you're a mother.
It's something that continues, and as I'm getting better at it, I think, after all these years. But it was the most incredibly fascinating learning for me, and I'm so grateful for that.
Awesome. Harrison.
Well, worrying about things is, the parental, that's the game. You sign up for that when you have kids. You're going to worry, and worry actually is the misuse of imagination. So Neville Goddard called imagination God. He said imagination is God. So that was an interesting quote that I've always remembered. And for me, there's a lot of, humanity involved in sci-fi, other worlds, all kinds of other places that I believe humanity is going, because we are currently, in my opinion, in transition from the Homo sapiens status into the Homo luminous status, or home pattern, or Homo kind of spirit pattern, Homo spiritual pattern.
So what's the wildest
the
thing
wildest thing
that
is
you've ever imagined for
okay, so I
humanity?
study genius, right? So that's something that I study a lot. So what I study is, how do we experience other worlds? One of the things that how do we experience places in other worlds? How do we experience this astral plane, this angelic plane, this kind of uber guardianship of the universe, and so on and so forth. So I try to project, what will happen 10 years from now, or what will happen 100 years from now, or 1,000 years from now. And, that is something that, I've always loved sci-fi. So I move into that space. And so when I think of something really wild for humanity, I think of the loss of the body, and then, still a collective of particular kinds of awarenesses that extend out into the universe. And that kind of has, we want to teach the entire universe to play. So that's what I want to do. So we want to come into that space. So that's my wild imagination. And then, how do we teach an entire universe to dance in the American way?
Well, I have a dream. Me and
a
Martin.
dream. Yeah, you and Martin.
And my dream is that we can, that a small percentage of people can come together and create a shift on our planet to create greater peace. Now, I know we did that, for a little while with the World Miracle Peace Experiment, and really the level of violence dropped about 20% during the period of our experiment. And that was mind-blowing. But when we stopped the daily meditations, there was upswing, and I would love to see, my wildest dream is to create greater peace on this planet, and that we can come together using our imagination to do that. I think that would be awesome. So so let's talk about imagination. What do you think the role is for imagination? Does it have a role in creating inner peace? So, Shirlene.
Well, I just shared what I've been experiencing. So
Yeah.
I really think it does bring inner peace, because the practice seems to be breaking down your opinion. So what it wants you to do is really look at your opinion of anything that's going on around you that you're judging. And we know all of us know how hard it is not to judge, especially in the car. Have you noticed that? But if we just think about
or politics.
That's not my thing. Right now I'm on the Sea of Cortez, and I was thinking about what you were saying in the meditation, MarBeth, about walking on the beach and the sand in your toes. I did exactly that. I thought, wow, she must have been right with me today.
I was picking it up.
Yes. And I think that if we can learn to center ourselves in a place where we're not always offering opinions even to ourselves, not even everybody else, but to ourselves, about what we think about things based on our own experience, and we start to see it differently, I think it changes our inner thought processes, and it really shifts the people that are around you as well. And that's another thing I'm finding out. So if I want inner peace, I'm going to keep practicing this breathing in and out of whatever it is I find that I'm not comfortable with, or I find distasteful, because I'm finding out that it just lets me be at peace. It's just been awesome.
That's beautiful. I love that. Sharon.
One of the things that I've experienced with working with clients and working with many groups of people with sound and with the bowls in particular, um, I believe, and this is my imagination, in my imagination, I believe that every single human being is peace at their core. This is who we are. This is our energy. It's part of this all-encompassing energy of love and peace and joy and bliss. All of those things are permanent parts of our being. And we've just dumped all kinds of other stuff in this quote reality on top of that. And so we lose touch with this permanent part of our being. So every single time I work with people and with groups, as this gets cleared away, people reconnect, and it's the energy of the room shifts, and we become that one being, like you were explaining, Harrison. We become that group of energy, but we're still in physical bodies, but we become that energy. We become both and all of that. And so I see this happen over and over and over and over and over as I work with people, that they reconnect with what is already there.
Beautiful. That's really beautiful. Well, you know, the Course in Miracles talks about removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. And that really is what all of us on these panels are doing, because we're doing it in our own unique way, using our own unique imagination. But still, we know we're tapped into source, and we're being guided to do this in different ways. So how beautiful is that? Harrison?
Well, I have mixed emotions about imagination and inner peace because, you know, there's a lot of different information out there about a lot of different things. And this brings up an idea that I got from a movie called The Edge. I don't know if you guys ever saw that movie, but it's a story that Anthony Hopkins plays this billionaire, and he's caught in an airplane crash in somewhere, and so yeah, somewhere in the wilderness in you know, Alaska or something like that. But in one part of the dialogue between he and Alec Baldwin, you know, Alec Baldwin is sort of this flamboyant kind of guy in a multitude of different ways, and he's all scattered, and he's using his imagination in a lot of different ways. But, you know, he accuses Anthony Hopkins, this billionaire, of being, you know, quite thick about a lot of different things, and, you know, thick in his opinions, thick in his directions and activities. And Anthony Hopkins says, no, I'm not thick at all. He said, I just have no imagination. And, you know, he's the guy who is so focused that nobody else, you know, can compare. And so he's the one who's able to lead, you know, the other guys who everybody dies except him in the movie, but he's the one who's able to lead them through this crisis. And so it is about, you know, so the imaginative can sometimes be a gateway to being very scattered, and it's a gateway to other things that are not in the moment. So I have that mixed emotion about imagination not being from the present moment, and the present moment being something that is different than imagination, and it is simply, it's a groundedness and an identification with all things that are present and the earth and the mother earth and sister sun and all that stuff, or whatever, father sun, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my take on the, you know, it's connection to you know, just focus and being, you know, right here. So I think that in terms of being in the present moment and being one with all things, it is the thing that takes us out of that for a while so that we can reconnect and find ideas, find forces and energies that are not in the present that bring us back into the present.
Oh, well, that's an interesting thought. And can it take us out of the present moment?
It does.
It can.
That's what it does.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, we could be receiving.
You can't be in the present and be in an imagination at the same time. I don't believe you can do that.
Well, I don't know. What do you think? Shirlene, what do you think?
I obviously think you can, because you're breathing in the present and you're imagining that it's better, and breathing out love and peace to other people. So I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Right.
Okay, so let's can I offer something here? Okay, let's dialogue about that for a second, okay?
Mhm.
So you can be in the present of your imagination, but you can't use your imagination to be in the present. Does that make sense to you? At least from my point of view.
I think
Such
you
an
can.
interesting thought. And
It is an interesting thought.
yeah, for me, the imagination, and I go back to my experience with the clients and with bulls, and the imagination is what draws everyone into being in the present.
Right,
The
it is the
imagination is like,
gateway
oh,
process.
yeah, that makes sense to me.
Gateway, yes.
Yes.
I could see
As
where
the
it would be a gateway.
But
Mhm.
in the meditation today, in our imagination, we were all present.
You
We
can
were-
be present in the imagination, but
Absolutely.
you can't be in the imagination or be present.
Be
Does
present.
that make sense?
Oh,
We were in the imagination, and we were very present.
No, you were.
I was.
You were in the cosmos out there.
I have to read that book because I'm not sure I've
you
read
weren't
that
in-
one.
You weren't in
Okay, well, we can agree to disagree.
You weren't in your body at that. You weren't in your body at that moment.
So how do you think we can use imagination to create greater peace on this earth?
Why do you think? Is that what you asked? Why?
How?
How?
How do you think? Sharon.
Well, for me, it's just bringing people reminders over and over and over and over and over again in whatever way I can imagine as that gateway that brings them back to the peace within, who they already are. It's already there. It's permanent. So it's reminders of how to return. And there's so many ways.
It's a stimulant, isn't it?
It can be a stimulant. Yeah. You know, it can.
On
If we can
dark side,
capture,
it's worry.
yeah, on the dark. Well, yeah, but that's more fear than imagination. We can use imagination from a fearful place. But we're talking about how can we use it to create greater world peace.
Right.
So let's ask Shirlene.
Oh, I was afraid you were going to do that. I was hoping Harrison was going to answer that question because,
He will.
I've tried so many times to, and I consistently do try to imagine that we are in world peace. I did it so much so that I moved to this beautiful place in Baja, and I have complete peace and don't have to deal with all of that on the other side of the border. But I have tried, and we've done it as huge groups, right? I mean, we've had huge vigils of imagination and meditation and for world peace, but it seems not to work very well. Have you noticed that?
It works during, well, you know, when they were doing transcendental meditation groups in Israel during the war in Lebanon, when they went there physically to do the transcendental meditation, the fatalities dropped in Lebanon. They totally dropped. When our world miracle peace experiment violence dropped, it just wasn't sustainable once the meditations stopped. You know, and
that's an interesting point.
So I think one of the things is that maybe we need to be more consistent with that. And also, is there a tipping point, like the 100th monkey type of situation? If enough people meditate, is that going to shift the balance on our planet to create more positive? And well, anyway, Harrison, what are your thoughts?
So
I know you're bursting at the seams here.
I'm not. You know, I'm happy to wait for everybody to finish with this. So I think it can be used as a great stimulant to have people, you know, activate the highest within themselves, because that's what imagination does. If it's a gateway and it comes from God, you know, it's a stimulant for that purpose. So as we activate what the idea, if we give everybody the challenge to say, what is your idea of world peace? They actually think about those thoughts, and thoughts are things, right? So thoughts are things that get, projected and activated in the universe for unity, for different kinds of unity. So if we create the idea that everyone is part of the oneness and they understand this, the greater we stimulate the idea of this oneness, the greater becomes our imagination about what that means to people. And then, they tap into it because it feels good. And that's what imagination helps you do. It helps you feel into something as well. So it's a great area to help peace happen, because part of the misuse of imagination is what causes violence. It's what causes, pain. It's what causes, anger, frustration, disappointment, so on and so forth. Those are the misuses of imagination. So if we can reframe imagination to happiness, joy, dancing, singing, all the good things that make us, feel great, then I think, and Abraham Hicks does a great thing with that. Also does, I read on Facebook today or yesterday, where if you teach, the Dalai Lama said that if you teach 8-year-olds how to meditate, we'll wipe out all violence on this planet within one generation. So I like that. I don't know if it's true, but I think I like it. So, so if you imagine something vividly in a great way, it actually magnetizes the forces to make something happen. And that's what I think is a great boon to humanity. And that's part of the reason why humans were given that gift.
Very cool. Wow.
We as humans.
I'm just waiting
we
for
are
Harrison to say, okay, and I'm going to do this on such and so a time at such and so a date.
Yeah.
It sounds like you have the answer, Harrison. So, let me know when you're going to do it.
May 1st, 2022.
Yeah, there you
We
go.
will all be at peace. We'll have transcended the human condition.
So it sounds like that we need to use our imagination to create a movement that will generate the kinds of thoughts of more peace within ourselves and also in service to humanity, because doesn't peace always begin with us? So, and I know that many people are in that place of peace. We're on a planet where there is duality, and it just seems that the more people are working toward peace, you have the other extreme. So it just seems as if everything it needs to be in balance. I'm sort of quoting Dr. John DeMartini here.
It is in balance.
You know what I mean? Yeah, so that there is that balance. So it's almost like the higher we go, there's that other side. So what we need to do is somehow bring the two together so that they can merge. So if we have all of the extremes in the one hand, and we have the balance in the other, we can just merge them together and create balance and peace, for everyone.
That's the function of enlightenment.
So how many enlightened people does it take to shift?
To change a light bulb?
That too.
Well, it seems like there's more and more awakening constantly all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas, when we were raised, I can't speak for everybody, but when I was raised, there weren't many people who talked about this. And it's exciting. I don't know whether I'm just traveling in the right circles or what's happening, but I've been all over the world. I just came back from Europe in November, and there's a lot of awakening all over. It's not just here. So I'm really happy to see that. And right now, the Women's Economic Forum is meeting in Egypt, and it's all about bringing world peace and really making an impact in the world. And I love that so many people are awakening and that we can speak freely. There was so many years we couldn't.
So many years.
We wouldn't have dreamed of doing this.
Mhm.
And I find that there are ways, using our imaginations, that we can we can say the message in ways that other people can hear it,
Yes.
because we can speak their language, whereas they might not hear it if we express things the way we would normally speak.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's another way that we can use our imagination.
Right.
How can I meet these people where they are and speak the language that they understand, and so that they'll get it.
Mhm.
And
It's
yeah.
like talking corporate or talking spiritual. It's so different.
Exactly.
It's like worlds apart. You have to change the verbiage completely.
But as the technology, as technology improves the ability to communicate between all kinds of cultures and all kinds of things, that stimulates a stronger connection between people. And so that's part of why the Enlightenment is happening, is that more people can get more information at much quicker paces and all kinds of other things. And obviously, you know, it's the highest value that humans have is to be totally fulfilled in one form or another. And, you know, whatever that happens to be for them, but the highest value is always, you know, what is the best being I can be? And, you know, that completely connects with all human beings. And so enlightenment is the answer to that, or awakening is the answer to that, that all the great sages of all history have kind of directed us toward.
And I love that mindfulness is becoming so mainstream. It's
Mhm.
it's being taught in corporate. It's being taught everywhere
The military.
in the military, and meditation. So it's almost an oxymoron.
That was good, MarBeth.
So we're getting close to the hour, and I don't want to run over. And so I would really love your thoughts on anything that you'd like to say about imagination and its role in creating greater peace. So Sharon, you want to start? Do you need a minute?
The first word that comes to my mind is freedom. Allow imagination to be free in people. Don't stifle it.
That's really beautiful. So perhaps we need to generate greater opportunities within our educational system.
Within business too, even,
yeah.
You know? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Shirlene.
I have to agree with Sharon. I think that we have such creative little children.
That's where I was going.
Huh?
That's where I was going.
Yeah, even to this day, they're making them line up like soldiers. And it was an interesting thing that happened the other day with my grandson. They hang the backpacks outside the room. I've never heard of that before. And because he was getting things out of his backpack and he wasn't in the door in the very second, he got marked late. So what I'm trying to say is that they're still so strict in the schools, and I don't see it's such a conforming governmental institution that I don't see how the kids are allowed to be creative. I think that's a really big problem. And then they come up so that they're like governmental, you know, little robots instead of being the creative beings that they are. I love watching my grandchildren and how creative they are, but they're new in that system. And I know what's going to happen, but we could say we don't like these games that they're playing on the iPads and that kind of thing, but I'm noticing they're playing creative games on the iPad where they're building villages and they're earning money and they're paying money and they're even borrowing from each other. Can you believe that?
That's awesome.
And I think that creativity is really good for them, but I think that it also should be better expressed in the school system so that we have children that know that they're free to have that creativity.
Absolutely.
Well, the imagination gets hijacked by the educational system. It actually gets hijacked away from kids. Their emotions get hijacked and their imagination gets hijacked because of the restrictions and the constrictions to make people conform. And, that is not what humanity or the essence of humanity is about. The essence of humanity is about expressing the gifts that you were given from a cosmic level, and at least in my opinion. And, I think that the highest form of imagination is releasing your abilities to feel. And when you are in the feel space, when you're in the real feel space, you're experiencing not only what's happening in front of you, what's happening inside of you, but you're also experiencing, the background and the foreground simultaneously, which is a new form of focus. And there are new life forms coming on the planet and so on and so forth. And I believe that, this is an incredibly beautiful planet. And the more we have time to experience the planet, the greater becomes our imagination, because color stimulate us, beauty stimulates us, things that delight us stimulate us. And those are all activations of the imagination. So, I mean, I remember being in Europe and traveling on a motorcycle in the Pyrenees, and I was coming around a hairpin turn, and I kind of took this turn, and I was a little too fast on it, so the motorcycle slid out from under me. And as I looked up from the motorcycle sliding out from under me, and I stood up, I saw this amazing vista. I could see 70 miles, probably maybe 100 miles, and I was stunned into shock. Not from the motorcycle thing happening, but from the beauty of the vista that I was looking at, the scene that I was looking at. And in that moment, I experienced and understood a whole different form of me. And it was a very interesting experience. And I was probably there for 2 minutes without breaking my focus. So I couldn't even imagine anything breaking my focus out of that. It was so intensely beautiful, just running through my body. And so, I think the educational system doesn't allow that freedom. And I think that we need to start from the place of our personal gifts, and come to self-realization, knowing ourselves. The educational system doesn't teach you about who you are, doesn't teach you about finances, relationships, doesn't teach you about all the important things in life that matter to you as you become an adult. So, I think where we need to go is have a more imaginative educational system.
I think we're all in agreement. Wow. I want to thank our amazing panel. This was great. This was so fun. And thanks to Sharon Carne and Shirlene Reeves and Harrison Klein and all of our people that have joined us, our audience, and hopefully we'll be watching this afterwards. And we're going to be available again live next Sunday at 5 Eastern. So I hope you'll join us again then. And thank you all so much for coming. We really, really, really appreciate it. Namaste.
Namaste.